There is a very big game, even though it's a scrimmage, even though it's a glorified practice, a very big game set to go down in Austin, Texas. So what are we watching for the spring game? I'll start with this. Make sure you don't fall victim to the hype train. It's like no one's winning the Heisman Trophy during spring football, no spring Heismans, but still, even though you're not making absolutes, you just take a temperature of what's going on within your team. And for Texas, everybody is watching this quarterback room. We're going to talk about Arch Manning here in just a second, but I want to talk about Quinn Ewers. What kind of Quinn Ewers do we see this coming Saturday? Because everybody around that program's been talking about, hey, Quinn Ewers, man, he's in a different mode. He has elevated his game immensely. It's a different Quinn Ewers out there. From his game to chopping off the mullet, it sounds like it's a different number 3 out there. So the reason why this is so important is because Quinn Ewers has a lot of potential. And potential is what you could be. Like what Quinn Ewers could be is one of the best quarterbacks in college football. That's what he was billed coming out of high school. Even though he left a year early, he was still one of the top guys in his cycle. And he's got a ton of potential. And so if Quinn Ewers is able to make good on what he could be, you feel a lot more confident about what Texas could be. Think about what you saw last year. There were games where he was flashing. Like that first quarter of the Alabama game, we were all ready to give him the Heisman Trophy. We were ready to let him park anywhere and everywhere on the 40 acres. He wants to parallel park in the Dean's spot, that's fine. Quinn Ewers, do what you want, brother. But then we also saw games against Oklahoma State where he throws 30 incompletions. We saw games where he was turning the ball over. He's making poor decisions. So from week to week, if we see consistent Quinn Ewers, how different is Texas in 2023? Because they've been building to this. We'll talk about that in a second. But for Quinn Ewers, I just want to see him rev the engine a little bit. Now, if he goes out and doesn't have a phenomenal day, we're not going to pump the brakes and say Arch Manning should be starting. We're not going to go that direction. But for Quinn Ewers, you want to see him look comfortable. You want to see him look in command. I want to see him command the offense. And I say it a lot on here when it comes to grading quarterbacks during the spring. I want to see him lead some scoring drives, man. I'm not going to be overly concerned if he doesn't, but I would love to see my QB1 for the Texas Longhorns get us in the paint a few times. Show me what we've been working on behind closed doors. Show me that you have had some more aha moments like Steve Sarkisian talked about when he went into the spring. He says it's starting to make sense more and more for Quinn Ewers. He said it's like the engine's starting to finally get clicking, and it's not so much like you're driving stick shift, like it's we're good here, then we're stopping, we're sputtering out, then we're good again, then we're sputtering out. He said it's more of a smooth transition for Quinn Ewers this coming season. I just want to see that in the spring game. Is that too much to ask for? Is that too much to ask for our starting quarterback down there in Texas? So Quinn Ewers, the new and improved version of him, would love to see him sling it around. Now, Arch Manning, let me tell you this. When he checks into the game in DKR in the spring game, forget whenever that happens in a regular season game. When it happens in the spring game, it's going to be anarchy in DKR. And can you blame anyone on the 40 acres? His last name is Manning. Like, that comes with a lot of juice. That comes with a lot of expectations. I would just say this with Arch Manning. Let's just sort of hold our opinion on what he's going to be as a starting quarterback at Texas, because it's not going to be in 2023. And if it is in 2023, something has gone very, very wrong within your football team. Arch Manning is the future at Texas. I wholeheartedly believe that. No shade to Malik Murphy, but Arch Manning could be generational. I'll say this, though. Just let him progress. Just let him get his feet under him. If he makes some great plays in the spring game, awesome. Phenomenal. That means he's adjusting well. That means he's living up to his billing and he's doing some things that we expected him to do in a spring game. Phenomenal. But let's not make absolutes on Arch Manning just yet. Let's let that thing bake just a little bit. Now, the other thing I'm watching pretty closely here, we got to take stock of that defensive line. Really quickly, though, make sure you're subscribed to the On3 YouTube channel. Got to talk about it, okay? It helps us just do more of what you want to see. So thank you in advance for that. Now, we got to take stock of the defensive line. And the reason why I say this is you probably aren't getting beat because of what you have on that D-line. I mean, Texas brings a lot back on defense at some really key positions. They're replaced in other spots, but some key positions, they bring a lot back. Devondre Sweat being one of those guys they're really excited about. But just what is the overall feel from this spring game when you watch that defensive line? Again, I don't think you're getting beat in 2023 because of that D-line, but I think you can really win some games if you have an elite pass rusher emerge. Now, I think most people in Texas circles would tell you they believe they're probably going to go to the portal and get somebody to be that game breaker off the edge. I mean, you hope somebody jumps into the portal that can be a game breaker for you. But there's still some guys that you should be excited about. I said you got some guys coming back. You got some freshmen, some young bucks. Ethan Burke, who could be a player for you. Another young player, Justice Finkley, he could be a player for you. They have a pretty good battle going on right now for that edge defensive end position that Texas likes to run with. What do they give you in the spring game? And it's tough to really get a gauge for this because the quarterback isn't live and you're only able to rush so close to him. There's an imaginary, what we call halo, like 3-yard circle around the quarterback. If you get within that 3 yards, good luck. You're probably running until next Tuesday. But you hear what I'm saying. Do we see some guys get off blocks and have some what would be considered a sack in this spring game? Just taking a pulse of it. Because you got some things on the defensive line to be excited about. But if you get a pass rusher, now we're talking. Now we're cooking with peanut oil. We get a pass rusher down there in Texas. So, again, likely going to the portal, but just having some guys put some good things on tape. Your tape is your resume. You want to make a statement? You want to put a nice little bullet point on that resume? Make some plays in the spring game. The defensive line deserves a lot of attention. Now, the running back room is very, very crucial. It's very, very crucial because what you want to do offensively at Texas is predicated on the RPO scheme. What's the first letter in the RPO, y'all? The R. What does that stand for? Run. You have to be able to run the football to effectively execute Steve Sarkisian's offense. You remember the bowl game? You remember the bowl game. No Roschon Johnson, no Bijan Robinson. And so what did Texas do? They aired it out like it was a Delta Airline flight. They were throwing that thing all over the yard. At times it worked, but the majority of the game, they just looked out of sorts. Why? Because they didn't have their bread and butter. They weren't able to run the football. They were unbalanced. And as good a quarterback as I think Quinn Ewers can be, you still don't have what you need at the running back position to execute effectively in that bowl game, and that's why you saw what you saw. So in the running back room, who's able to sort of separate themselves in this game? You got a lot of options. Cedric Baxter, one of the freshmen they have been raving about. Savion Red transitioned from running back to receiver. He's made some waves. I mean, early in practice, Tashard Choice, Steve Sarkisian, they're always talking about Savion Red. Looks good in the running back room. Making a lot of plays out of the backfield. What do we see in this game? Also, Keelan Robinson, the Alabama transfer. He's looked solid so far in the limited action we've seen from him at Texas. Does somebody sort of stake their claim as RB1? I think it'll be by committee, but you would love to see somebody sort of establish themselves in this game. Now, I'll say this. The wide receiver room, you have no reservations about. And the wide receiver room at Texas in this spring game, it's a lot like going to see your favorite band in concert, man. You just want to see them play the hits. Like, I don't worry about Xavier Worthy. I don't worry about A.D. Mitchell. I don't worry about Jonte Cook, quite frankly. I'd love to see him get some run in the spring game and do some exciting things. But I just want to see them give the people what they came to see, which is some explosive plays. And that goes hand in hand with the running back room. If you can run the football effectively, those guys are going to get a lot more real estate to work. The more real estate, the more room for Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning to deal the rock, and good things are happening on the 40 acres. So, with that being said, for Texas, we've talked about it a lot on this show. They have built to a year like this. The good people in Texas have been told, hey, be patient, give Steve Sarkisian some time, allow him to build, allow him to get his process right. Y'all have been patient. Y'all have allowed him to take his time. Now, it's time to act. Now it's time to get some ROI. You're cool with 8 wins, but you're not cool with 8 wins 2 years in a row. Greg McElroy actually has some thoughts on this as well, but I believe, and I was talking to Bobby Burton over there at Inside Texas, I believe this is the year where Texas needs to win double-digit football games. And the good news for Texas fans, it's very much so attainable. Now, what I would say, again, I cannot stress this enough. We're going to come in here after this spring game. We're going to break it down. We're going to give you our thoughts, give you our takeaways. This is not going to be a statement on what Texas will be in the fall. It's still a practice. It's a big game. It's a big situation. It's going to be the biggest situation we've seen Arch Manning or Cedric Baxter or Jonte Cook in. It's a big situation, but still, it's just a practice. So don't go making predictions based off what you see in this spring game. Be encouraged about the good. Understand that the bad is still getting worked through. All right? Just enjoy that we got college football back on the television. All right? So with that being said, Texas, we'll be watching that spring game. It'll be a whole lot of fun to break down, and we're going to see some freshmen, one Arch Manning actually getting some real-time run in DKR. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.